Hello, everyone. I'm Andrew Berman with National Mortgage Professional. Thank you for watching another Mortgage Leadership Outlook, where we've been taking the biggest and brightest minds of the mortgage industry, going live every day, 4 o'clock East Coast time, 1 o'clock Pacific time, just getting inside the minds of some of the biggest leaders in the mortgage business. It's been an unbelievable honor to have these amazing minds, but join us and really just kind of be the guiding light for what we should be telling our borrowers during these times of uncertainty, because it's a very weird thing. Actually, I just got off a webinar with Barry and Barry Habib and Shashank, and it's a very weird thing where we're in this position where we're doing so well as an industry, and so many people are around us are doing horrible. I mean, there's just so much financial trauma out there, in addition to all the the health trauma that people are going through. So here we are, actually, we have to actually maintain the proper leadership voice. And man, who better than that to bring on than my good buddy, Mr. Eddy Perez. Eddy, thank you so much for joining us.
Welcome. Thank you for having us, and you're always a little bit too kind to me, so thank you so much.
Stop it. You're so humble. Stop it. Listen, there's no question about it. You are such a great leader, and I think actually, and it's almost like, no one actually told you how much of a good leader you are. So I want to ask you a lot of questions. I've got some things that go into my mind, and one of the things, and I try actually as much as possible to not have too much of a conversation before we go live, so we can have these conversations live. But one of the things I did share with Eddy, because I think this is really unique, and I want to know how this happens, but there's very few companies that are able to maintain the the multi-channel respect that you guys have. I mean, you guys are loved in the on the distributed retail side. I mean, I know originators that work for you guys that love you guys, and then actually on the wholesale side, they love you too. So what does it take to do that? Like, how do you actually to have actually such respect on both sides?
Well, I think first off, it took a couple years to get there. Let me be very clear. As you know, it took a couple years to get there, but I think it's just the mindset that, having been an originator, I was a broker before I was a lender. It's just, I think what people misunderstand is, if you look in NMLS, it doesn't say you're a broker. It doesn't say you're a bank. It doesn't say that you're retail. What it says is you're a mortgage originator. And at the end of the day, that's really what it's about. It doesn't matter what channel you're in, because at the end, you're still an originator. And I think that we're all more like baseball players. The analogy I say is, you may be in the American League, you may be in the National League, but at the end of the day, what's good for baseball is good for everybody. And what's good for this industry, it's really up to preference of the person and really their personality. And we just, as an organization, see that very clearly on the different mindsets, and just build our team to understand it.
So, and I do want to go back actually to the days when you were a broker. So, I mean, if we could actually talk a little bit about that. I'd be like, well, and first of all, how did you get into the business? Like, what led you to get into the mortgage business? By the way, like, everyone's reaction is that, like, whenever no one's ever been like, well, I as growing up, actually, I always wanted to be a mortgage broker. There's literally one person I know that was the case, actually, but please tell us, how did you get sucked into the mortgage business? As a mutual friend of ours, Christine Beckwith, always says that you get into the business sideways. I love it, because no one strategically says, I'm going to become a mortgage broker. So how did it happen to Eddy Perez?
How did I get in? Well, I mean, it does start off in childhood. Anybody that knows me knows how much I idolized my parents. And growing up, my father worked 6 days a week, 12, 14-hour days, and I would spend Saturdays with him at the construction site, and he was a contractor in residential contracting. So I was kind of always somewhat intrigued by the residential side. I went to college, studied finance. Then I got to be a stockbroker. Well, then the 2001 crash happened with .com, and at the time I was 24 years old, and that kind of swept me away. And then somebody said, hey, what about the mortgage business? It's kind of like finance. I know that it's something you would enjoy. You're always somebody that likes to be around people, and I'd grown up around builders. So it just made sense. And as they say, once you're in this business for 6 months, you truly appreciate it and just never leave. And that's basically what I always tell people is what I find so interesting about this industry is to be successful in it. It's a white collar industry because of the price tag and the average loan size and what you're doing for somebody's life. However, it's really about it being a blue collar mentality. You start at the bottom, regardless if you go on the sales side or you go on the ops side. And it really teaches you from A to Z, very similar to how UPS starts their organization. So it's wonderful because it's like a trade organization, trade service. It's like going to school to be a plumber. You learn it on the job. So that's how I got into it.
So hold on for a second. Well, tell me more about that. UPS started their organization. I didn't follow that, please.
UPS, they're known with their management, their executive level, and so many of the leaders in that organization, they start very low and they work their way up. And that's very similar to this industry is no matter how high you grow up on the operational side, and there's plenty of great organizations that were started and now the CEO and presidents came from the operational side or they came from the sales side. Essentially everybody started as a low-end loan officer or an assistant, and everybody started as receptionist or something of that nature, junior processor on the ops side. You really grow by hands-on, training and really being in the situation. So I think that's what builds the merit, because it's really about being blue collar and working hard and grinding through it and just going every day to do your best.
I love that. I mean, by the way, I didn't know that about UPS. That you start lifting boxes, as in this mortgage business. The most successful people I know actually have actually they've been through multiple phases. Like no one I know that's made it to the top, became an executive, from someone else. So it's. That's interesting. That's interesting. So there's a lot of other similarities between the UPS worker and the originator. Just that grit, that hard work and grit. So when did you fall in love with the business? Like when did it become like, from hey, this is something I can make a couple of bucks with, to oh wow, I found my purpose, I found something I'm connected with?
So I have a great story about that. There was a gentleman, I'll leave out the family name. However, there was a gentleman in New Jersey I was doing a loan for, and this is probably about 6-9 months into my career. And he had been hit by a backhoe and had run into some financial problems. However, his family had stayed in their house for almost 20 years and they had ridden the wave. And as we all know, close to where you're from, that area has grown exponentially and everything. And, they had run in some hard times, and I did a refinance for them, paid off a lot of debt, repaired their credit. And then on the second transaction, put them, got them even a shorter term and better interest rate and payment, even though it still dropped them from all the debt they had accumulated and brought them in. And I'll never forget, he was Catholic like myself, and he called me on December 24th. Which is always a big night, Christmas Eve, or, to Latinos, La Noche Buena y todo eso. And he just said, hey, I just want you to know that I told the rest of my family about you. And I just thanked him because I sit one Christmas better, and I can't even talk about how much better I feel in my life. That made me realize pretty quickly the impact that you can have on people. And sure, you can do well, but it's no different than anybody who's ever done well in life. The more people that you influence, the more people that you grow, the more people that you make successful, whatever that's defined for that individual, of course you're going to be treated better. And of course it's going to treat you better. So you just went with that attitude, and I'll never forget that, because, some of the days, we've all had tough days. We've all had moments we've wanted to be like, bump this, bump that. Of course, in this business, you're using something that starts usually with an F and everything of that nature.
Forbearance? Oh, no.
Yeah, no. There's a lot of F's. So,
That's the 14-letter word of the day. But okay.
Yeah, those are definitely the moments, when you've helped a consumer that way, because you're a consumer yourself, so you can definitely understand and feel like it.
Yeah.
And when you've also been able to grow teammates and seen what they've done, and even those that have left and even grown further, but you may have started their career with you, I think that's very rewarding. And I think it's just that personal feeling that you get that you've left this place better. And I think that was like about 6 or 7 months into my career. And it's, from there, it's just, I've never looked back.
Okay. So you've got that great satisfaction. You're like, okay, this is like, wow. So yes, I can make a nice living in this, but I am actually helping people by making money. This is great. So when did you actually, go from, originating loan by loan to, helping other originators, so they can build their practice?
That became in 2005 when I left to be from an originator to open up my broker shop. And then I quickly realized the best way to grow the organization was to really grow the troops there. And what's crazy is still one of our most tenured employees has been with us for 14 years, because I became a broker in 2005 and he joined us in 2006. And since then, he was a single guy. He's had 2 kids, spouse. It's just those moments, and they're still with us, that you get to grow and you get to see it. And I mean, we even joke like over the years, like, God, man, we were really messed up. God, we really screwed that up back then. Remember those mistakes, those growing pains? I think you just, you live in those moments together, and that's really seeing him change his life. Because I'll never forget, he told me, and it wasn't even the financial gain. He's like, I'd really like to make X this year. And I looked at him and I was like, look, if you don't make that in the first 4 or 5 months, then you're really not working hard. And this isn't really meant for you. Well, he wound up making it in 3 months, and he wound up just doing very well. And now he runs an office for us. So
wow.
He just got to see it. And it's funny. He tells me later, like, some of the things you used to get me on, I used to be like, oh, whatever, you're just thinking this way. And he goes, and then I started running my own team, and I started realizing, wow, maybe those things do happen. So it's part of the reward and all that really started hitting and growing from there.
Wow. So all right. So let's you got a love for the business. You love it so much that you said you wanted to help other people get in the business. Clearly, family's so important to you. Would you encourage your kids to get into the mortgage business? Like what's your feeling that when they see dad actually being the leader? Actually, I mean, come on, you had them doing push-ups, right? I mean, that's you've sucked them into the mortgage business. So are they excited about the industry? Do you think that they'll be at? Has any of your kids actually at any point said, "Dad, I want to be a mortgage banker"?
So my oldest, she said she not only wanted to be an attorney, but she eventually wanted to be general counsel for EPM and then run it one day.
Wait, how old is she?
She's 13 now, but said that like at 8 or 9.
That's great.
That's a lot more like me personality-wise. However, now she wants to be a respiratory therapist in the NICU. She's wanted to do it before COVID. I'm just a believer, my dad never pushed, I want you to be in construction, take over the business. I really, want them to follow whatever their dreams are. No different than when in sports, because my father played on the Cuban national team and I happen to have developed well in baseball. But I haven't pushed that on my son. I just, I think they'll get in their groove. I think as a parent, you just try to listen and talk to them and ask a lot of questions about them. Hey, what interests you? What goes on with you? And then just support whatever their dreams are. I mean, if I had to have my money on it, it's probably my youngest that'll probably one day be in it, because she just has that fiery, she's definitely my wild child. I got spoiled on my first 2 kiddos. They were so much easier. I adore them all, but I don't know. To be honest with you, Andrew, I'm not sure. Would they maybe grow up and then get into it? But I'm definitely not going to force it on them. That's just, it was my passion. It's my dream, and it's what I love to do. But that may not be them. That may not be them at all.
Yeah. Well, listen, I mean, we see actually, your involvement with the kids. We see actually, you make this business look fun, and I'm sure they see it. And I think that's kind of like part of like, your like your leadership style. Like, it's, you always look like actually, you love and you have a lot of passion for this business. So like, what led to the decision to go actually beyond your own organization and lead actually, to at the NBA level?
I was fortunate. I met Dave Stevens in 2012, and he got me involved in committees. And then I had the opportunity to join the Future Leaders program in 2013. And that's when I really learned about the advocacy part. And at that point in time, we'd also seen what not being at the table did for the industry and advocacy, and how we were trying to recover and change some of the laws that were just so tough on the consumer and organizations. And it just reinvigorated me. And then somebody told me, that if you truly have a passion for something and you truly love something, then go be a fundraiser, go be an advocate for it, go get people to put in their own sweat, their own equity, their own dollars. And then you'll really, really learn to see what type of leader you are. And more importantly, you'll also get to know what your true passion and how much you're passionate about it is. And I have to be honest with you, that was probably one of the best advices that I received, because I've never done it for anything else. Just to make this better, not to have, I would be lying. I'm not a guy that lives in fear, but I am very worried to ever go down the road as 2008 and how such a wonderful industry got trampled upon. And more importantly, I understand, because we made a lot of mistakes and we treated a lot of consumers bad. So I understood why some of the retribution came. Don't want us ever to go there. So I'm going to be one of the first and forefront always to push that we never, ever, ever come close to going down that road again. And it's great because now we're showing that we're actually providing so much relief to consumers that, we've gone from the villain to the hero, almost like wrestling, it feels like. But obviously that one's a little bit more staged. So this one is different, even though, obviously growing up 80s, 90s, huge wrestling fan as a kid. So but yeah, you got to have fun. We're asking a lot of our people. We're asking for more time and more commitment and more energy than they even get to spend with their families. So you better be having time. I was very fortunate to play sports and have a lot of successful teams I'm on. And those were what a lot of coaches taught us, is be competitive, have a lot of fire, have a lot of fun. But if you're not having a fashionable good time, what are you doing it for? You're just doing it for $1, or you're just doing it because you have nothing better to do. It's not really worth it, just to be honest with you. Nothing in life is, if you don't have a passion and a love, and got to have fun. And yeah, my kids have to highlight a little bit, when we were changing the floors, I put it on LinkedIn because I think it's good to share a lot of these positive energies. We had a, trash the floor party. They went a little bit overboard with the spray paint and spray painted some of the areas before they were supposed to. So drove some of the teammates crazy, but I said, look, man, we're creating memories here. What may bother you for 1 second today is a laughter for a lifetime. And I think that's just some of the positive energy and attitude you got to have about life, and you got to enjoy it. And
I love that. By the way, I one more. May bother you today is going to be a laughter for a lifetime. That's great.
Yeah.
That sounds like something my dad would say, who just joined us here. Who, by the way, was a big Ricky the Dragon Steamboat fan. Like that was his wrestler. Did you have a favorite wrestler?
Yeah, I had a couple. There was, I was a big, obviously 80s, 90s kid. I like a lot of us back then, big Hogan and Ric Flair fans. I had the privilege of meeting Ric Flair, even to the point
really?
Yeah, funny story. In the national championship game, UGA versus Alabama a couple years ago. That's a long story for another day, but we had a suite for the game, and it was here in Atlanta, and Ric Flair got to be our guest. And I could truly say, in his 30 for 30, when they said nobody is as dude, he was famous. I'm talking about Kiss the Ring.
Yeah.
I mean, that was like Elvis, Michael Jordan levels.
Yep.
It was unreal.
Yeah. And I think actually, and it was before they actually, it was weird because like it was an organic kind of fame, like
Yeah.
whereas like it didn't seem like later on all the wrestlers, they were propped up by the organization, whereas people just loved Ric Flair as his personality,
Yeah.
and so much about him. So that's great to hear. It's great to hear actually even as people talk about actually Ric Flair's name today. So listen, and I don't want to get too actually off track because one of the things I do actually want to talk to you about is how Equity Prime, and that's one of the reasons why we have a lot of people on this to talk about our reaction as an organization and how we've been dealing with the COVID-19 crisis. So can you talk a little bit about what has this done to to your organization, and how has this changed? And let's start actually from when did you guys first start to react to the pandemic?
I mean, I think everybody will remember many years from now. Where were you? I tell people March 9th, 2020. Well, I happened to be in Colorado at the Midwinter Conference with about 100, 125 folks. It's a very smaller conference with a lot of NBA folks. When the 10-year went below 1, and that's when the real panic set in, because I was at a conference with AIM just literally 4 or 5 days earlier, and I've never seen so much enthusiasm at the time.
Yep.
So you went from extreme enthusiasm in the industry to, I'm talking about panic. And then in this country how much we love our sports. When they started cutting sports on Wednesday, I was like, whoa. But I was with some of the best minds in the industry. It was attacked extremely well. They were very well prepared to make sure that we wound up being where we are, just over a little 60 days ago, even though these 60 days seem like 6 years. But, we took it a very balanced approach as an organization. As a leader, what you have to do is make sure your consumers as well as your employees, because that's, as I always say, my clients are my employees, the consumer, my brokers. That's my client. So I have to focus on them. And from there, we had to make sure we had a safe work environment, because there's still a lot of laws that haven't been passed that allowed for, so much of this remote online notary, because states haven't done that. The collateral that comes in still needs people. So we still kept a pretty decent sized crew here at home office in Atlanta, but we just did some smart things. We did social distancing. We did check temperatures. We did bring in lunch every day for 2 months to make sure there was less people going out, as well as I think these are moments when culture is very valuable, and when more importantly, you got to communicate as much as possible, as well as really hone in and make sure that you're providing a safe work environment. Did I have a few people that were a little bit worried? I did. And I said, look, if this is something that you don't feel comfortable with, please go home. And if you can't do your job, I'm still going to pay you. One thing we did do day one was there was a pregnant girl here, and I sent her home. I just said, look, go home. If something happens in the next 6 weeks, I'll feel really bad. Don't worry about it. When you come back after maternity leave, don't worry about the income, because she's really young and her and her husband did not have a whole lot of money. So I said, look, it's not going to change our organization by a few $1,000s a month. Go home. But you just had to be smart about it. You had to know about it. We told people some of the ways to play offense. You had to drink a lot of water, wash your hands. We even told all the vitamins. We just took a lot of the knowledge that was out there and just prepared people. If people took the advice, you got to sleep more. But we also said, look, you cannot be fearful. Fear is known to drop your immune system. But what it did is it brought a discovery that, I know a lot of people are on Zoom calls. Well, we used it as an opportunity to be very inclusive, because, we have offices throughout the country. We have groups in wholesale all the way out in California. So that's where we started every Friday having a town hall. The first few really started with myself, really letting people know where we sat as an organization, how we sat with strength, what we had done for years to put this situation, and really bring confidence to the team. And then it became an education, from my 4 or 5 phone calls a week of, hey, here's a snapshot, here's what's going on, let's make this educational. And now it's really transformed into different leaders in the organization talking, really bringing people apart. And we kept it fun. One of the things that we started was Wine Wednesday. Now it's included throughout the country, where we ask from trivia questions to fun things to definitely promoting exercise. I think being very proactive with your physical and mental health. That's probably my greatest, concern right now is the mental health for our fellow Americans. 36 million have lost their jobs. You got to be very compassionate about that, as well as you got to be compassionate, because my mother, double breast cancer survivor, I've told her to stay home. However, I think it's safe to say if you feel good, you're in good shape, you feel well, I think we got to reopen and not let that fear keep being persistent, because it's just going to do nothing but drag us down. So that's just some of the things that we focused on, just being very proactive, very informative, and more importantly, empathizing and understanding how people feel in their shoes.
Not living in fear, and just facing this, taking the right safety precautions, but knowing actually that we're in a place, actually we're in the industry that is going to take us out of this financial collapse.
Yeah.
So we need to be there. This is not a time actually that we can cower. This is the time actually that we really need to kind of be there to kind of support our communities. So what kind of guidance have you given your originators out there, that they should be having with what kind of engagement they should be having with their communities?
We've definitely told them that this is a time to just, it's as simple as even talking about what vitamins to take. You got to be there for the fellow man. Something I learned from Janine Driver, who has taught me a lot about body language and how to be a better leader and how to really gain emotional intelligence is, in life, if you really, really want to lead people better, everybody should stop being interesting and start being interested. And what I mean by that is really get to know, ask people, hey, what's going on? How do you feel? What's bothering you? Not, hey, my name's Eddy Perez. I'm CEO, president, this. Who cares? That's something we can get to later. It's really diving in and seeing where you can assist. And look, eating some humble pie when it's needed, being very honest with yourself in reflection. I think, I've spoken about some of my anxiety challenges I had after my father's death because I bottled it up. And that was really, worried so much about the future that I didn't get to enjoy the ride in the day. And I think that's what we've had to do as a community, saying, look, I know we're in this situation today. However, the sun will rise, the sun will set, but really just informing them. I think it's to your point, we going from the villain to the hero, somebody skipping 1 or 2 payments, somebody refinancing, saving money, even somebody now being able to buy a home. And I actually think this is going to be a huge boom for the residential real estate market, because now people just don't view home. And something I've been saying for 2 years is if somebody's doing bad at home, they're going to do bad at work. And if they're doing bad at work, they're going to do bad at home. Those lines were blurred. And that's something that we've been doing in this organization and talking about for many years. And I've talked about mental health. Well, now that's completely out the window. Now it is official. Work and life are balanced. And a lot of work now is going to be done at home or done somewhere remotely. And I think this is going to get people, what I'm seeing is people now requesting a few more square feet, a little bit more size. Can I get a basement? Can I do this? Do I have an area to go to? Because, there could be future pandemics. And as we know now, with information so readily available, I hate to say it, 40, 50 years ago, not being able to get to so much information is definitely not what I'm saying we should do. But sometimes being a little naive is helpful. No different than when I started the company. I thought it was going to be easy. So, I think naiveness sometimes helps. But, in future pandemics, there may be people that are worried and are going to hunker down as well. That's really up to the individual. I've always said, let's not be judgmental. Don't judge somebody for staying home. Don't judge somebody for going out. You don't know what it's like to be in their shoes. You don't know what's going in their life. You don't know what they're thinking. Be compassionate. More importantly, be empathetic. Understand what makes somebody want to do this.
Yeah.
Like I say, is to the communities and to even my fellow man and to everybody out there, definitely work on being interested, not interested.
I love that. That's I believe that's Carnegie, right? How to win friends and influence people. That was I love that. That's something I believe in that. And just listen. I'm going to pass judgment on those who are driving around with their face mask on. Okay, they're getting judged by me. But aside from that, I
laugh at that. I ain't gonna lie. I laugh because I'm just like, all right, dude. Oxygen in your car ain't too bad unless it's your own. But I get it though. Somebody
they're living in fear.
That level of security. Even though I've heard some people are passing out and it's causing accidents. And I've heard that from some police officer friends. So maybe take it off at that point just for the sake of your own health.
Yeah.
But I'm not one. I haven't worn a mask, but that's just me. I just don't believe. I actually also think somehow I think it's passed through me just because I've been in all these areas that later got shut down right where I was, and somehow I dodged it. I don't think I'm that lucky. I just think that maybe it just didn't get me as bad or whatever.
Yeah, listen, we're all getting different levels of it. I had it. Actually, there's a webinar. If you go back, actually, there's a DocuSign webinar that we did in January. You go back and listen to it. You hear it in my voice. It's amazing. So yeah, it's bad. I thought it was a flu, and we went to the doctor, and they said it wasn't a flu, and I was like, so it's just a cold. It's just a cold, really. Yeah.
Garbage, but it's just a cold. Yeah, no, that ain't. Allergy.
yeah, exactly. I felt actually, like I was justified in my like when we finally realized that what the coronavirus was. I was like, hon, that was it. I told you I was sick. I told you I was dying. But yeah, but most people are. It's not even. I mean, the biggest symptom is people are getting, they're losing their smell. They're losing their taste.
I've heard taste. Like they can't taste food for like 2 weeks. God, that'd be terrible. I mean,
yeah, I know. It wouldn't be terrible for me. I think actually that would be a great thing. I wish actually if I could get
the part that you got, not the part of the voice and the lungs.
I'll take that. I'll sign up for that. I'll totally sign up for that. I think actually, I think I have the anti-coronavirus because of this. But so listen, I'm curious. Like let's talk about for the future, because we know, and listen, like I said, we just got off this webinar where Barry B was calling for this unbelievable, unprecedented times and as great as things are right now, they're just going to only get better. And like next year this is going to be an unbelievable year. Next year is going to be even bigger. So how are you guys preparing? Like what is actually, what is the strategy to be able to help borrowers, to be able to help the brokers, to be able to help your employees, your three kind of focuses in the business? How are you preparing your employees, your borrowers, and your brokers?
Well, first of all, we're definitely working on our tech. Our tech was not some of the best out there. I'd be honest with you saying it was a little archaic. However, we hired a chief technology officer. It's probably one of the best hires we've had, that is coming in and really diving in and actually understands the business because he came from it. He was out of it for a couple years, but long story short, he's been in tech since he was like in high school. So it's just something, he doesn't call himself an IT person. He says he's a technologist. That alone probably tells you he knows exactly what he's talking about. Yeah. So we're investing in tech to try to streamline it. We're creating advisory boards inside the organizations for different functions, so that people can bring us a lot of candor. One of the best things is, somebody, at a younger age, it's because your mind is a very defensive mechanism, that when somebody brings you a suggestion or criticism, you instantly tense up. And that's part of the emotional intelligence we're teaching us in the organization, that listen to what that person's saying, like really listen deep. If they didn't give a crap, they wouldn't say anything to you. They just go away, have a nice day. So that's really an opportunity to improve yourself and really ask questions and get better. Yeah. So that's probably the second thing, is we're bringing more people to the table and trying to improve things as much as we can. And then third is definitely work on our communication, because I think sometimes you feel like by your actions you're doing well and you're communicating enough, but we live in a world of over communication, and there is no such thing as enough communication. It does not matter.
So that's interesting, because I mean, my perception from an outside, and listen, seeing actually that now I'm not involved in the day-to-day, but I would always feel like, you're the kind of leader and the kind of, organization that does have a lot of communication, and communication is important. So talk to us a little bit about, where are the areas that you feel you can improve your communication that, you might have been lacking or not giving enough attention to?
I mean, definitely to the originators. And what I mean by originators, I mean on all the channels. I think there needs to be a little bit more clarity. And more importantly, the tech side, we were relying on some of the tech to communicate for us, and we were just assuming, unfortunately, that it was happening, and it wasn't. That's on us, like I say. And at the end of the day, the buck stops with me. Everything is my responsibility at the end. Good, bad, or indifferent. I am of the believer that I have the most people to report to, because not only do I have the employees that we report to, but I have the consumers as well as all of our beloved brokers out there that I have to report to. And, I've really taken this time to dig in, listen, hear what's going on, and use everything as an opportunity to practice blameless problem solving, and more importantly, share best information and evolve. So it wasn't even that we weren't communicating good. It's just we assumed things were getting done. I'm teaching my team to get out of your damn comfort zone, man. You got to start doing more videos, because I'm going to tell you, everybody, I'm going to tell you a small secret. Okay. And people get upset with this when they're like, oh, I don't think I look good on video. You do know that's how the world looks at you. So that really has to do with what you feel. 90% of it's just going there. And being authentic today is okay to make errors, okay to get tongue-tied, okay. Nobody wants, the perfect video like when we were kids. Like if you would have had a video today where somebody admits mistakes, they would have been, oh my God, you're an idiot. And it would have hurt back then. But, it's just the evolution of leadership. 15 years ago, you didn't share something, that was a good thing, and if you shared something, they're like, oh, there's a cover up. Now, if you don't share something, oh, there's a cover up. So it's really morphing the mind and really teaching the folks and taking the opportunity to invest in their leadership and in a culture plan, and really what drives behaviors to really make people understand what it feels like to be in other people's shoes. I think that's really where we needed to work on, and we still work on it. I still get notes every day on, hey, I didn't hear back from here. So it's just a process of really drilling down communication. Like they say, in real estate, it's location. I would tell you, in running a business and dealing with their clients, it's communication. And not just relying on email. I really hate email, by the way.
Really
hate email. Really hate it.
Okay.
I like phone calls. I like text messages. I think the human interaction needs to go. I think email can be effective. I think it's a quick follow-up system. I think it's a great backup. But when I tell people, well, did you reach out to the person? Yeah, shot them an email. Dude, we all get 1,000 emails. They get lost. I forget emails all the dang time.
Yeah.
I laugh at those people. I'm like, dude, did you send me a text message? Did you call me? I mean, come on, man. Oh, I know you're busy. I think Bill Gates said it best. I'm too busy to know the new I'm stupid. That basically means you matter nothing. I don't care, and go F yourself. That's basically what you're trying to tell people without saying it.
Yeah. Well, and there's speaking of Shashank, he talks about actually this book, 168 hours, and it's a philosophy of we all have the same 168 hours, and it's about time management. So what dumb crap are we doing that we didn't have enough time, to take that thing? And so if you say you didn't have enough time, you're basically saying I didn't really care about that task enough. And I cared more about watching, the season 3 of Ozark, which I mean, that is a case for me. I
gotta watch that show. I mean, it's filmed not far from home office. I got to watch it up at the lake, but crazy show. I just finished it up last night at like 3:00 in the morning, burning the midnight oil. Wow. So, do you get a chance to watch much TV? Because listen, I watched The Last Dance, and that was out of this world, unbelievable. But that's fond memories. You're talking about, that's the 90s. I was 13 when the 90s, started, and 23 when it ended. And those are fond memories, man. That's high school and college all wrapped up, man. Those are some of my, that's high school, baseball, college. I mean, those are some of the fondest memories and foundation and memorable pieces of my life. With my family, my friends, and just decisions I made back then that still affect me in a very positive way. So I watched The Last Dance, but no, I don't. I wake up at 4:30. I go to the gym. I get home. I go to the office. I really, like I tell people, I don't feel like I work a single day of my life, even on some of the tough days. I just feel like it's playing sports to me. It reminds me a lot of when I trained and played baseball. There's a lot that goes into it besides just playing the game.
Yeah.
And, I'm just not into TV like I used to be. I like sports, so hopefully that comes back soon. That is one thing I'm definitely missing. But,
yeah. So you say actually you're having fun all the time, and I believe that. I know that about you. But there's got to be some dark days. like if you think about and maybe it was recently, with dealing with some of the issues that a lot of actually our friends had when it came to capital markets, where the margin calls scared a lot of people. Maybe it goes back to your 2008 times and dealing with the melee. But what actually, when you look back in your career, from when you started in Jersey as a broker to today, like what would you say is like one of your darkest days?
I mean, obviously my father's death.
Yeah.
That was back in 2007, but I had a weird moment. Not weird. I literally, though, I consider myself very fortunate because I was able to tell him goodbye and share all those moments. Some people, unfortunately, they hug their parent and then they're dead, something out of nowhere. So I can say at least I'm very grateful and appreciative that I had that wind down. Even though I was very young, it was very tough for me. I had just become a father.
Oh, wow.
I had survivor's guilt after that. How the hell did my parents, come here from Cuba and suffer? And I've had all these wonderful opportunities. That's what led to a lot of my anxiety. So I look back on those days, but those days I still got to be thankful because it's what pioneered and allowed me to listen. Because I'll never forget in 2007 when Jamie Dimon said, brokers are to blame, which total garbage. But
I love it. Yeah. He
said to me, though, I need to go be a lender, but I need to come back someday, open up offices, open up a wholesale channel, and then be even a bigger leader and be able to impact even further. I knew that would bring me some fulfillment. I knew that was, my father and I had 3 promises. I literally had a deathbed conversation with him one day before he went into, they tried to induce a coma to save him, but then he died of heart failure because he didn't take care of his health. And, it was one of those, I didn't want to believe it, but I guess he knew, and I was in denial. But, he said, look, take care of the family. That's now your responsibility. Make sure your mother's doing well. Make sure you're leading by example. Take care of your mother. That was one. The second one was, essentially, if you're going to be the best at it. And then third was, before you leave this world, make sure you left it better than you found it. And I can say my father did. And with that being my idol, I tell people all the time, I just want to be half as good as he was, and the world got a better place. And it's just one of those moments that I never forget those. And even in some of the tough days of capital markets, I always focus on opportunity. What is really being said? What's the strategy to take? What do we need to do? And just not to be still. Just got to keep moving forward. Even if you're just moving a millimeter every day. That's actually what helps mental health. That's actually what helps you attack it. You can't worry about tomorrow if you don't attack today. And whatever's coming down, it was brutal days in capital markets. But, once again, very fortunate for the leadership we have here. We weren't in the same position as others. And we were in a very good position. So I viewed it as an opportunity just to move forward and to keep going and to focus and do what we can. Because the only thing you really control in this life is your mindset.
Yeah.
I hate to break it to everybody out there. So it's really about what you grind, what you do, and how you lead.
Yeah, how you react and your attitude. So, what put you guys into that good position? Like, how did actually, how were you prepared, for, this black swan, incident that so many lenders were not prepared for?
Servicing had gotten a little crazy. I've spoken out about that, on quite occasions that the servicing values that were being put out there were insane. So even though we were a servicer and we had our Fannie, Freddie, and Ginnie ticket, some of the prices that we were offered on MSRs were bananas. So we followed the old philosophy that Warren Buffett said, be greedy when others are fearful and be fearful when others are greedy. And in 2018, we sold our book of servicing.
Wow.
And just stayed out of it. I did not think that this could keep coming. And then when this happened, forbearance did not sit on our books the same way. It wasn't going to create legacy issues for us the same way. However, then we saw this as an opportunity to get into servicing because now the market, is better. There's actually better margins today. People are not inflating these values. And I think it also changed because servicing now is going to become a function of sales, I believe. And I believed it was a time to morph, because servicing was like the one pitfall so many people had. So I viewed it as an opportunity, like, hey, let's, with my leaders and speaking, we said, okay, why don't we create a sales function? Why don't we go proactive? Why don't we stay in touch with the consumer regularly, monthly, sending emails, even phone calls? How do we build a team that can really be about client relations and just servicing? And it's just, focusing on a proactive approach. We didn't, we sold loans to the agencies even when it didn't make sense because we wanted to keep those approvals. Yeah. We just did some things that I think a lot of the sales guys and a lot of the wholesale will never understand it at the time, but it's what laid the foundation for today. And even though, right now, like I said, is earlier before the call, we had a little bit of hiccups on some of the turn times because, we were built for 50, 100% growth, the growth rate we were not built for. But, it led us to be a great opportunity. Once again, I still always focus on the opportunity and the positives because, we had a company from our industry, literally, I'm not joking, across the street from us, who had to let go of 70, 85% of their staff, and we picked them up. And so people that had lost their job, who may not have a job, all of a sudden had something with us because we had a need. And, we did things the right way. When loans have lasted longer than they should because it's on us, we've given the extensions. That, to your point about capital markets, not something that we had to do. It's just one of our basic principles of our 23 fundamentals that drive this organization, that mold the EPM way. That was, you always do the right thing, regardless. There's never a wrong time to do the right thing, and there's never a right time to do the wrong thing. And even if it was a little bit costly, and even though we could have said, hey, look, everybody's turn times are up, things, we just viewed it as the right thing, and we worked on it. Do we have a lot to go? Yeah. I think we always got to be improving. So it's just that constant belief that we got to grow. One of our big fundamental drivers is speaking courageous. Anybody can talk to us in pure candor. As long as you're not rude or disgusting, you'll get pretty far with us. And if you're rude or out of line, I always tell people that's your chance to really ask that person, hey man, what's really going on? Start to listen, be that interested, because half the time they're like, dude, I've had this is what's going on. My kids are driving me crazy. I'm having this. Hey man, can you just do me this favor? Hey, can you give me 12, 24 hours? I think people will be shocked, especially, I'll say this, and look, I'm going to be a little biased when I say this, is I'm extremely proud of being an American. I'm very gracious to be born in this country. As I always say, Cuban by birth, American by the grace of God. I think Americans inherently will look out for each other a little bit more. They will stick up for each other because we're all just a band of brothers and sisters that got together. And I think just having a lot of that clarity and candor is what helps it. And just saying, and look, and if it doesn't work out and somebody's really upset and they can't recover, if you put your best foot forward and you laid it all out there, even if you lay defeated on the field of battle, as Steve Jobs says, you will enjoy the moment and you'll learn from it.
That's great. That's great. That's a way to look at it. I look at anything by doing that, not standing still, even just taking those micro actions, you can get through anything and become unstoppable like the great Eddy Perez.
Yeah, I got a long way to go, brother, but thank you. If I'm ever having a bad day, if I'm ever feeling down, I'll definitely call you. You'll be able to pump me up in moments.
I'll send you I'll send you this so you can.
But I'm not one that takes myself too serious. I like to have a lot of fun. Yeah. I like to enjoy the moment. I like to improve. So if you always feel like you can get better, then I think that's what prevents you from getting too high on the hog.
All right. So then I'm going to ask you this. We'll take everyone out. I just realized we've been talking for 48 minutes. I apologize, but so what do you do? What do you do for fun? Like what is Eddy Perez, the man, the father, the husband, going to do this weekend, for fun?
All right, so now this weekend will be actually special because we're going out of town and going to the beach. So that's going to be a lot of fun.
Nice.
to finally get out. What is normal fun to me?
Yeah.
I know people say it's crazy. I really do enjoy working out in the mornings. That really brings me a lot of positive energy and a lot of mental health. I enjoy walking around talking to the troops. I enjoy finding out what's going on with the kiddos, wife, things like that. Just, I'm at a point now in my life that I'm really cherishing the ride and every moment and every day. And yeah, this weekend we actually have something planned, but for the most part, I usually don't try to think that far in advance. I try to just grind it for the day and enjoy it. But, that's it. Like sports a lot, like I said, and yeah, every once in a while, movies here and there, with the kiddos, or watching a show, but that's pretty much it. There's not a whole lot,
Fantastic. And actually, I'm going to hit with one question. It just came from my father. What do you think the greatest positive outcome for Lone Originators will be from these difficult days? And what would your father say should drive you forward?
Well, I think it's opportunity now to define your career if you're an originator. What I would do to be 25 right now and be an originator again? Oh, man.
Oh, goodness.
Because it's back to fundamentals.
Yeah.
And I also think what's going to be great now is, from a purchase market, if you can get loans done and you can represent it, I think with Zoom and all that, you can now have realtor relationships that feel face-to-face instead of just having to be local, even if it's, say, 3 hours away from you or even another state. Yeah. I think really how you brand yourself, this opportunity is, you know what? I'll be honest with you. I've never seen as good of an opportunity ever, because you got to think about it. After 2008, there was a lot of opportunity, but we were the villain.
Yeah.
Being able to come out on forefront on this, especially for where home now may be shelter, home may be work, home may be less traffic. And that means people are going to start buying a little bit more. And this is, I tell all the young people out there, I know for a long time you sat on the sidelines, but this is probably the best time to get in. And what would my father say to move forward? My father would just say, grind it every day. Every day. My father had a regimen of getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning, 6 days a week.
That's great.
Little by little every day.
Fantastic. All right, Eddy, thank you so much for joining us. Stick around for a second. I'm going to walk everyone out of this. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. What another unbelievable interview. Mortgage Leadership Outlook coming to you every day, 4 o'clock East Coast time. I am just humbled by by Eddy's presence. Great message. Make sure you connect with him. Always actually, some of the most inspiring posts on LinkedIn. Just whether it's his videos, whether it's just his messages, whether it's just his comments on all industry. I don't understand how he has time to to be the CEO and president of Equity Prime, because he seems to be spending a lot of time on LinkedIn. But there's no question about it, he's leading that organization to do amazing things. A lot of great leaders at that organization. So connect with Eddy. And tomorrow we've got the great Mark Warren. We're taking a pause for the following week for Memorial Day week. But the weekend after that, the week after that, unbelievable lineup of speakers. So thank you so much for watching another episode of the Mortgage Leadership Outlook. Everyone, stay safe, and we will see you tomorrow.